In this edition of the Parliament Report, funding crisis at Students' Loan Bureau. Legislator wants Trelawny Stadium in the hands of UTech, and UC Rusal invests $100 million in Ewarton Bauxite plant. The Students' Loan Bureau, SLB, is now facing a crisis as it struggles to make payments to tertiary institutions on behalf of the students who received loans for the academic year 2012-2013. Executive Director of the Bureau, Monica Brown, says the institution is facing a significant challenge to meet the $4.2 billion to be disbursed to universities and colleges. Addressing members of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, the PAAC, in Gordon House on October 3, the SLB head said, to date, the lending agency has identified $1.7 billion of the total sum to be disbursed this year. This represents 41% of the projected $4.2 billion. Mrs. Brown told the Parliamentary Oversight Committee that the institution is currently holding talks with lending institutions to try and access needed financing to close the funding gap. And in a related story, a leading consulting firm in Jamaica has signaled that the Students' Loan Bureau is faced with a crisis of its own viability. A recent PricewaterhouseCoopers study of the SLB said the challenge facing the institution would require key policy decisions that can only be tackled by the government in consultation with its various stakeholders. The PricewaterhouseCoopers study mirrors another research done by the Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB. According to the CDB study, the SLB's current loan model cannot sustain the growing demand for student loans without significant annual increases in capital. The CDB report of 2011 stated that funding from loans should not be the only option, as interest payable on borrowed funds, particularly during the moratorium period of the student loan, would result in cash flow shortages which would have to be funded by capital injection. Executive Director of the SLB, Monica Brown, said that even with a 100% compliance rate on the part of borrowers, the increased demand for more student loans calls for greater capital injection in the institution. At present, the lending agency is battling a delinquency rate of 30%. Over the last 6 years, the SLB has seen a 153% increase in loan applications. For the period 2007 to 2012, the loan application jumped from 6,600 to a little more than 16,600. Former Finance Minister Audley Shaw wants the government to hand over the Trelawny Stadium to the University of Technology UTech so that the facility can be put to productive use. Shaw admitted that the former Jamaica Labour Party administration had erred when it refused to enter into a lease arrangement with the tertiary institution. In his comments during a meeting of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, PAC, on October 3, Shaw warned the government not to make the mistake as the previous administration. Shaw was supporting his colleague Dr. Horace Chang, who questioned whether the government was prepared to keep the stadium as a white elephant. Chang suggested that the administration should take Trelawny Stadium off the budget, noting that the facility had the potential to become the Caribbean's best sporting training center. Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Onika Miller, reported that discussions were taking place on how to best reposition the sporting facility. She said the Independence Park Limited, the agency which has responsibility for the stadium, would be presenting proposals to the OPM to inform the directions going forward. The Trelawny Stadium was built to host the opening ceremony of the 2007 Cricket World Cup. It has hardly been utilized since, and UTech has been seeking to establish its western campus at the site. The forensic audit into the U.S. multi-million-dollar Jamaica Development Infrastructure Program, JDIP, has unveiled wanton disregard for government procedures for project implementation. However, the parliamentary opposition has said there were no acts of criminality. Opposition spokesman on transport, Carsimuda, said the report highlighted some degree of mismanagement, but contended that there was no evidence of misappropriation of funds. His comments came after Minister of Transport and Works Dr. Omar Davies tabled the forensic report in Parliament on October 2. Davies told his fellow lawmakers that the audit found wanton disregard for government procedures for project implementation, administration, and management. Finally, in the Parliament report, the Russian-based aluminium producer UC Rusal says it will be investing US $100 million or Jamaica $9 billion in its Ewarton Bauxite plant in St. Catherine. This means that the cloud of uncertainty which was hanging over the 600 jobs at the bauxite plant has been lifted. The investment will fund the establishment of a coal-fired electricity generating plant at Ewarton, with construction set to begin next year and earmarked for completion in 2015. Minister of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining Philip Paulwell on October 2 announced that the government has signed a concessionary agreement to waive the bauxite levy on the operations at the company's Ewarton plant for a year. The concession takes effect from October 1, 2012 to September 30, 2013. During the period of the concession, it has been agreed by the government and UC Rusal that the employment level at the plant will be maintained at the current 600 local jobs. The terms of the accord also state that over the one-year concession, the company will maintain the level of production at the refinery. At present, the company is operating at 300,000 metric tons per annum, representing half its total capacity. And during the construction phase of the coal-fired electricity generating plant, UC Rusal is expected to provide employment for 800 persons. At the end of the construction phase, the refinery will return to full production and employment. That's how we end this edition of the Parliament Report. Thanks for joining us. Until the next time, I'm Edmund Campbell saying, walk good.